Ruth, you mentioned the problem living in a rural area near Jamestown in South Australia and services and problems. So can we actually give enough knowledge to and enough technique to an individual and their partner or their carer to be able to undertake self-MLD or partner MLD? How do you think that might work, and is there a role or a place for it?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think all the tools that we have in our kit box are really important. But I think it's also kind of understanding, how it all is supposed to work, and then how do you translate to your busy life. So for me, I really prefer to spend the time maybe doing exercise and doing other things, and getting used to the garment and that. And I'm learning more, here in the conference about better ways to improve some of those other techniques. So I think the self-massage is really important. I do try to do it, but sometimes I fall asleep before I finish at the end of the night. But I do think there is definitely a place for the knowledge and for people to get in good habits about it, and you do see the results. There's no doubt about it.
Okay, thanks. MLD is about getting the lymph to flow, but Terence would have a different opinion in terms of stopping or reducing the load on our lymphatic system. So if we could do that perfectly, do we really have to have MLD if we can reduce the load on the lymphatic system? Terence?
Well, 5,000 years people were doing massage, and what really is the difference? It's a more subtle or more well worked out, more refined system than MLD can be.
So do we have a better system now than we had 5,000 years ago?
I doubt it.
John Paul. Terence has just said, I doubt it, and yet you've shown that MLD is reasonable. Do you think we're really doing our best in terms of improving lymphatic flow optimally with what we're doing?
Definitely, yes. We improve to move the fluids because we do not other than apply forces on a tissue, on a structure, and these forces have a physiological effect. So, of sure, what we have to do is now improve those techniques, because clearly, under the light of some imaging technique, we see that some manual lymph drainage, historical, some manual lymph drainage technique seems to be not efficient. With my words, it seems to be. But when you perform a lymphoscintigraphy, and when you look the methodology, and when you look the reality, the person who performed this study push every time the tracer with the thumb, every time, just in the point of injection. And because the thumb is very little surface respected to your hand, is 20 times little, because the equation of the pressure is proportional, for sure, if you use the same forces, the pressure is 20 times more when you exert the same forces with your thumb. And all the study, and there are not 10 studies, they demonstrate the efficiency of manual lymph drainage. They push only with the thumb, and after they extrapolate and they tell, you see the flow, the radioactivity is increased with my technique, with my hand. It's false. We have one day to be correct, ethically correct and intellectually correct. So we have a big change, I repeat. Today the technology helps us, and we can in the future together move the line and improve manual lymph drainage technique, because there is no reason that with the hand we cannot accelerate the fluid and help the fluid to go into the lymphatic system, the part who is functioning. So, just to finish, the bandages.
This is supposed to be an inquisition.
No, but it's important. It's important because I hear some things. The bandages, the compression therapy, of course, are also efficient in some level, but they stop here. There is no machine, no bandage to push the fluid on the thorax, on the basin. And how to start with machine and with bandages is complex. The hand of the human there's a very fantastic geometry that can adapt and help the fluid to move in complex geometry area. So manual lymphatic drainage has to be improved, of sure, but it's still necessary and effective.
Okay, and yet if we look up on the screen at the moment, MLD -1, 2013, effects of MLD on breast cancer-related lymphedema, a systematic review and meta-analysis summarise the current evidence from RCTs does not support the use of MLD in preventing or treating lymphedema, so why bother?
Why?
I didn't ask you. Marlies.
Okay, I think I've made my point. I mean, if you have a large trial and everybody's homogeneous, every effect is going to be cancelled out. What you have to do is find those patients, and then Jean-Paul has given a great tool if you want to really test it. You don't need 1,000 patients to do the testing. So I think it's a matter of really getting down and looking at which patients in this group are benefiting and which are not benefiting much. And in Arizona, I can tell you, garments are very hard to put on when you have a 45-degree temperature out there. And liposuction, likewise, we can't do the follow-up on the patients. They're not going to continue the compression.
Okay, thanks, Marlies. I've got a vested interest. I'm a lymph node. Okay, and you've just loaded me with a whole lot of crap from the tissues. Okay, you've given me a huge bacterial influx. You've caused some endless problems for me. So, is that good news or bad news from the point of view of MLD? Anyone want to have a go at it? Would you like to have a go, Terence?
I paid Jean-Paul a visit earlier this year, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the subtleness of touch and the subtleness of the direction of touch, so that I can see that he has a point. He sees every day using his technology that it's not just a question of pushing and pulling. There is a directional and a lightness of touch sometimes which needs to be followed by a slightly stronger touch. And therefore I think maybe using those techniques with MLD, we can refine it and such and prove that it is really effective.
Louise, really effective, he reckons. The lightness of touch, the direction of our touch. But what about the lymph node? You didn't answer the question. You've just said all this rubbish up to me. What are you going to do about it?
I would incorporate deep breathing as well as lymphatic drainage massage, and not necessarily just individual things. And I think the thing that we haven't also talked about, and looking at your slide that had the different RCTs on it, there's so many individual factors for the individual woman. So like Marlies says, different scar tissue, different surgery techniques, different manual lymphatic drainage techniques. It's so hard to compare them all across the board.
Okay, so we're back to the individual again versus the RCT. But what about it when a patient or a practitioner reads those sort of things? MLD is no point. What do we do? What do we say to the patient, to the individual? What do we say to the practitioner about how they interpret that, how they read that? Would you like to reply to that?
I think we've got to be honest that there's scientific studies, and yes, they're presenting these results, but working with individuals and doing lymphatic drainage, people respond, that it makes a difference. My arm feels lighter, my arm feels softer, I feel better from it. And so you've got to weigh up the research side and the clinical side.
So you almost said ignore the RCT information. It's not.
I am biased, probably.
Okay, you're biased because you've had some experience. All right, Hosida, what do you reckon? Should we ignore the RCTs?
I think RCTs are good. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't be, going through them and making sure that we are evidence-based. But I think the RCTs that we talk about, you need to really look at every single study that they've actually done. And some of these studies are actually having MLD with everything else as well, with exercise and compression, and they have not quite teased out the ones that actually just did MLD. And I think those are very, very far and apart kind of literature that we're looking at. And if the question is really about is MLD effective or not, I think the other component we have to look at during these RCT reviews or the meta-analysis is also the quality and the p-values of the patients and the demographics of the patients. Most of the studies that's based on the meta-analysis and RCTs, the demographics are really, really wide, from head and neck to breast cancer to gynae kind of conditions. At the same time, they've had lymphedema for 1 year and 5 years and 15 years. And we know that, you know, if you're just talking about MLD per se, it may not be that efficient or effective, but there may be some other improvement that they've not considered.
Thank you. All right, we're running very close to the time. We had a very shortened session today because the other one went over a little bit. I think, is it right where the timekeeper is? We've got to finish at 3:05. Is that correct? Where's our timekeeper? Yeah, okay, sorry. So we'll begin to close down on the session a little bit. So, in a few words, Jean-Paul, is MLD still relevant for our patients?
Few words?
Very few.
Yes.
I prefer a little bit more texture in the comment.
We had just a big problem, and it's why those meta-analyses have a big problem. The difference expected, it's manual lymph drainage only, or with surgery only, is that the expected change is in the same range that the sensitivity and the error that we made with all the measurement system. It's a stupid methodology problem, and we can solve now with the technology. In the next year, we can improve those things.
Thank you,
sure.
Jean-Paul. So, Louise, in your practice, in your area, is MLD still relevant?
It is relevant. It's a tool in my toolbox of treatment modalities for treating lymphedema and individual consultation to work out if it's effective for each woman I see will prove whether we continue with it.
In Singapore, hot, humid, is it still really relevant there as well, or is it better going in a cold bath?
It depends on how hot and how humid it is. But just aside, MLD is still effective, and I think that's something that my patients do look forward to when they come for my sessions.
Thank you. Marlies, in the States, in Arizona, hot, dry, miserable place.
I can't wait to get back. I'll just say 2 words, yes, but. Okay, and the but is patients are individuals, not averages. And we're talking about fluid movement, and there are stages in lymphedema where it's mostly fat and very little fluid. So that's the nuance of but.
Okay.
And also ignorance, that it's all right to not have all the answers and to share with your patients that you have questions and that things are nuanced.
Okay, thank you. Terence, you know, you're not into MLD because you think the skin's more important and we should actually put honey on our skin and all those sort of things. Is MLD still relevant from your perspective, from your experience in India and UK?
It's not relevant anywhere that I work. But, that doesn't mean to say it's not relevant in places where it can be used. I would like to go back.
That's a pretty mean comment, wasn't it?
Randomized controlled trials are not relevant in this situation.
Okay. There's going to be an argument.
Absence of evidence is not proof that something is not effective.
Thank you. Well done. We're down to our last 1 or 2 minutes of this because someone will get annoyed. So have you got a closing word to say from the patient perspective about MLD relevant? Is it relevant for you? Is it likely to be relevant in the future? And did it help you in the past?
Yeah, I think it's one of those techniques that I think you really have to revisit. You know, you learn so much when you first get diagnosed about what you got to do and that. So I think it's something that as time goes on, it's important for all of us to keep learning and then revisiting some of the same other things. And maybe I need to think about a different compression garment, but maybe I really need to put MLD back into my life and really make a commitment to that So yeah, I think we all just need to keep revisiting all the different ideas, and I agree that touch is really an important component to healing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the speakers. We didn't quite get to the depths of controversy I would have liked, because everyone is in an agreement. So yes, MLD is still relevant. We've deduced from this.